Hi, welcome to the Belly Brain Connection. I'm Hannah Winans. I'm a certified functional nutrition counselor, and I'm on a mission to help educate people about the connection between their gut health and mental well-being. Thank you so much for tuning in. I believe that our gut health is a cornerstone to our overall health, and when we nourish our bodies, we nourish our mind. Today is episode 7. I appreciate you coming back. Happy New Year, 2025 just rolled in. I can't believe it. I'm really excited about this upcoming year, and I'm wishing you all the best in this new year as well. So for today's episode, last week I mentioned that we were going to cover the book written by Dr. Christopher Palmer, Brain Energy, and I'm going to postpone that until next week. I had a couple things come up that I felt were a little more timely that I wanted to talk about, and that book review is definitely going to take a full episode, and I'm trying to keep these down to 15 minutes. So for today, I want to cover some immune boosting foods that we can eat during this kind of cold flu season. And then also I have a list of the top 10 signs to look out for that you might have some gut health issues. I had somebody ask me last week, how do I know if I have gut health issues? And I thought that was a really interesting question because I'm so far into this. I don't know what you don't know, right? So I know that there's some people who are listening to my episodes and they are pretty familiar with all things gut health. Maybe they're working on, their own issues, or they've had some success stories and they're tuning in to maybe get more information or to understand a little bit more about the connection between the gut health and mental health, right? But then I also am realizing that there's a lot of people who really don't know anything about gut health and are maybe starting to wonder if it's something they should be looking into for themselves. And so I thought it'd be great to have just a quick kind of list to run through to see if it's something that you need to dive deeper into. So as far as the immune boosting foods, the reason why I'm bringing this up is my husband and I rolled in the new year with one of those horrible, nasty colds. Thank God it wasn't the stomach flu, but it was definitely more than a cold, not quite the flu. It came with all the sore throat, this runny nose, the cough, the headache, the achiness, so much mucus. I don't understand how our bodies can produce that much, but definitely a gross, icky, yuck, cold. I mean, I think by the time we were done with it, he and I had completely grossed each other out, tissues all over the house, all the fun stuff. So when we get sick, the first thing I start trying to look into is what are we going to eat? Because I really do believe that food has the power to heal. And so I immediately am thinking about, okay, what kind of immune boosting foods do we need to be eating right now? And it's kind of hard when you're sick because you don't really feel like making anything. You need some easy things on deck. And so we immediately, one of the first things we do is we cut out the sugar. So we don't have, we try and lead kind of a low sugar lifestyle. Most of the time, we definitely like our treats. But when we're sick, and I did this when we got COVID, I'm like all sugar out. So because it's just so inflammatory, right? And so that's one thing we're pretty good about. But then it's like, well, what do you bring in? Because I know for me, when I'm sick, I crave kind of sweet, tart foods. And it's probably my body saying that I want vitamin C because a lot of foods that have vitamin C in them are tart and tangy. But, and that's just an observation. I don't know if that's true. But anyways, so, I think that's why a lot of us start craving popsicles and orange juice and, there's just better options, right? So 70 to 80% of our immune system, those cells reside in our gut. So I've brought up before that 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut, and that's our mood regulating hormone. But 70 to 80% of our immune system, that's huge. So we really, really need to be looking at our gut health for all things health related. And that's why I'm so protective of my gut, right? Because I just know that when that's working well, everything else has a much better chance. So while we're, taking the time, I think a lot of us do try to hone in on some comfort foods, some healthier foods when we're sick. There's some things that we can do to kind of elevate that and also be working on building our gut immunity or our immunity up in our gut at the same time. So a few foods, I know, for instance, when I was a kid, we had the classic like orange, Campbell's chicken noodle soup, and saltine crackers and ginger ale. Like that was like the stay home from school food care package. And I think for any of you 70s, 80s kids, you can totally relate to that. And those are comfort foods and they actually do have some benefits to them. Oranges for vitamin C, it's been proven that chicken noodle soup can really help. Something about breathing in the broth really helps with congestion. So, not to say that those aren't great, but there's ways that we can kind of level up and boost those. So for oranges, I would even recommend if you're trying to get another vitamin C fruit in there, because oranges can be a little bit high on the glycemic index. So for people who are trying to really watch their glycemic load and their blood sugars, a really good alternative would be strawberries. So strawberries have tons of vitamin C in them, and they have a lot of fiber, and they are low on the glycemic index. So for people who are maybe struggling with SIBO, Candida, or even just really need to watch their blood sugar, strawberries are a great alternative. And you can buy them organic, frozen, keep them in the freezer at all times. They're just a great thing to add to your at-home kit. Kiwis are filled with vitamin C, and they're another low glycemic, kind of gut-friendly food. They have a lot of fiber in them. If you eat them with the skin on, I know I had heard that helps with constipation, and it does. If you eat them with the skin on, I guess there's a lot of fiber in the skin. It's really weird, like the fuzzy kiwis with the furry skin. It's a little bit odd. It's not an easy thing to do, but you can throw them in a blender with a smoothie, and that's helpful. There's another kiwi that I found. I think it's called the golden kiwi, and it's like a different version. It's maybe more like a pear. Those are delicious. And I can eat those with the skin on really easily, but I don't know if they have the same fiber content, right? So, and I definitely, if you're struggling with stomach flu, you might want to watch your fiber intake. What I'm talking about is just kind of the common cold, but fiber is really good for your gut. So strawberries, kiwis, blueberries are great because they're anti-inflammatory. Broccoli, surprisingly, has a ton of vitamin C in it. Again, another good fiber food. I don't know, when you're sick, if you'd be up for eating broccoli, but some people are. So if you're wanting to maybe incorporate some frozen broccoli into your chicken noodle soup to get some more of that fiber in there, that's a really good alternative. Another thing that's really great is bone broth. So bone broth is really, really gut friendly. It really kind of soothes the gut. It helps with the gut lining. Really something that you should be incorporating into your diet all the time, I think. But when you're sick, especially because, again, we're trying to build up our immunity and we're doing that through the gut, bone broth would be really helpful. And I know most people aren't going to make a homemade chicken soup from bone broth while they're sick, but you could take some bone broth and incorporate that with whatever canned chicken soup you're already having, right? So it's just another way to kind of level up the things that we're doing at home so that we can get better faster. So those are some tips for at-home care when you're not feeling good. We're getting through this icky, sicky season. And I guess my hope is that people kind of feel empowered, like, hey, there's some things that we can do to feel better faster. So that's a little bit about food immune boosting foods. Oh, vitamin C. By the way, vitamin C helps us to produce serotonin. So not only are we looking at it from an immune standpoint, because it's good for our immunity, but we're also boosting our serotonin production, which is something that we need. We need to, feel better as we're trying to get better. And a little more optimistic we can be. I really believe that a lot of how we feel really, a lot of it can be affected by our attitude, right? So if we're able to boost our serotonin production with vitamin C, then maybe we'll feel better mentally, emotionally, so that we can kind of power through our sickness. So that's that. Let's see. Next up, we'll do the 10. I have my list here. Okay, 10 signs that you may have an unhealthy gut. Again, I'm going to say this one more time. I'm not a doctor. If you're looking for medical advice, I'm not giving it. I'm basically looking at everything from the lens of nutrition and just some signs that maybe if you have some of these issues, talk to your doctor. It could be that you've got some gut dysbiosis. Okay, so 10 signs of an unhealthy gut. One of the obvious ones, constipation and diarrhea. So obviously, if you're having that on a consistent basis, either one of those things, or sometimes both, it is possible to have both, then check with your doctor. You could certainly have some gut health issues going on. And, not to get graphic, but when you have a bout of stomach flu or diarrhea, or if you've been on antibiotics, and antibiotics a lot of times can cause diarrhea, you probably have wiped out your gut microbiome. So, there's definitely some gut work you probably need to do after that. Gas or bloating, same thing. It's occasionally probably pretty normal, but if it's something that's interfering with your life and you're suffering with that a lot, take a look at the gut. Food intolerances and and sensitivities, those can be signs that you've got some gut issues. And let me back up. As we go through these episodes, we'll be touching on a lot of this stuff, but I kind of just wanted to give you the top 10 for those listeners out there who aren't even sure if you should be turning into these episodes, right? You might, once you hear this list, think, hey, maybe I need to know more about this. So food intolerances, sugar cravings. The interesting thing about sugar cravings is that, our little belly buddies that are in our gut, they actually develop their own taste buds. So if we've been feeding them a diet that's kind of high in sugar, they get used to that and they want more, just like we do. And they kind of drive our cravings. So I picture our little belly buddies as like these little critters. And so to know that they can actually develop their own food preferences and kind of can control us by that is pretty a little unnerving and kind of amazing. But high sugar cravings can be a sign that there's some stuff going on in there that shouldn't be. So that's something to look at. Abdominal pain, that seems pretty obvious. Frequent infections. So if you're not healing from infections quickly, or you're getting frequent infections, now that we just covered that 70 to 80% of your immune cells reside in your gut, it makes sense, right? So look at the gut. So if there seems to be something ongoing, and that's kind of how I feel about all of it, is like if you have these kind of persistent ongoing things, not to say that your gut health is the cause of it, and of course talk to your doctor, but there could be something going on that you need to address there first. Skin problems. So this one's huge. Eczema, psoriasis, dandruff, acne, all of those things have been proven to be tied directly to gut health. So I'm kind of excited because there's a book we'll cover, and it's called Super Gut, and it's written by a doctor who has come up with certain recipes to make a yogurt with certain probiotic strains that are designed to help with certain issues, right? So he's got one called, I believe it's the L. reuteri strain, and it's a yogurt that you can make that is supposed to help with sleep and skin. And so my husband has volunteered to be a guinea pig. I'm going to make this specific yogurt for him and see if that helps. He wants to tackle those two issues. And so I'm excited that he's willing to do that. And then he's going to come back on one of these episodes and we'll talk about his results. So, like I said, we'll get to that. But if you're into making yogurt and want to learn more, Super Gut's a great book. It's linked on my website, bellybrain.com. But anyways, the fact that there's a probiotic strain that can help with skin conditions is pretty amazing. Fatigue, that kind of makes sense. I think that ties in and with the next one, which is trouble sleeping. So again, we're starting to learn more about that gut-brain axis, and so much of how, us being able to fall asleep is what kind of anxiety we're going through, what kind of mental state we're in when we try to sleep. And, clearly we know that that's tied to our gut health now. So that there's that connection as well. And then nutrient deficiencies. So when we go in for testing and we're maybe low on iron or low on magnesium, that certainly could have something to do with our gut and how we're absorbing those nutrients. Again, tying that back to in functional nutrition, we say it's not just what you eat, but what your body does with what you eat, because we all have different gut microbiomes. And that's why one diet can work for somebody and might not work for somebody else. So it's really getting that gut microbiome in its optimal working condition. And nutrient deficiencies can be a sign that something's not being absorbed right. Leaky gut is really common. And I don't have time to get into it today, but we will be covering that. But if you just want to do a quick Google search of leaky gut, it can kind of explain why a lot of us have so many issues. And so much of the leaky gut is caused by ultra-processed foods, things that our bodies weren't designed to ingest. And in that, it's allowing those things to kind of go through the barrier that they shouldn't be and kind of inflaming our bodies. So too much to talk about right now, but I would say your takeaways for this week would be stock up on some strawberries, blueberries, kiwis, bone broth to get us through this season. And also maybe Google leaky gut, get a little bit more of an explanation on what that is, because that might be helpful for you in the next few podcasts until we can really get to it. There's just so much stuff to cover. And then on the Belly Brain website, I have a new tab there, and that tab says new this week. And so everything that I'm basically each week, I'm changing it out for whatever I covered on the podcast is going to be in that under that tab. So for instance, for today's podcast, I'll post this podcast there. And then any of the things that I referred to will be on that site or that page as well. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm open to more suggestions. I really appreciate everybody's comments and feedback and support. And I, again, trying to build a community of people who are interested in this. So I'm happy to bring people in, have them on the show. Again, tackle, research, any questions that you have. But yeah, I just appreciate you being here. Thanks. Bye.